just about a year and a half ago, I finished up a 3-year term on the YALSA Board of Directors after being involved with YALSA in various committees and as a committee chair for the past 10 or so years. So that's me. Vicki, do you want to give a brief intro? Nope, maybe we lost it.
This is Beth. I can while we're waiting.
Thanks, Beth.
Sure, Sarah. This is Beth Yost. And I work for the Young Adult Library Services Association as the executive director. I've been here about 12 years, and there's 5 of us on staff full-time, and we have 1 part-time position as well. And in part of my role as staff is I support the work of the board of directors.
Okay, Sarah, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I had it muted and I didn't realize. This is Vicki Emery, and I retired about a year ago from basically the head librarian position at Lake Braddock Secondary School in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I got involved with YALSA years ago when my friend Pam Spencer Hawley was elected to be president-elect. And she got me involved, and I've been involved pretty much ever since in one capacity or another. I'm now a counselor at large for ALA, and before that I was the YALSA division counselor, which gives you kind of a foot in 2 places. You're in YALSA on the board, and you're also in council. So it was really, really interesting and really quite a growth opportunity.
Great, thank you very much. So thank you all for joining us today. I see that a lot of you have microphones, which is great. Feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have a question or comment. For those of you who don't have mics, don't hesitate to use the group chat box to ask your questions. We are recording this session, so I will repeat your question when asked, and we'll be able to answer it or follow up with some ideas and comments as we go. So I guess using a show of hands, how many of you are involved with YALSA committee work right now? You can use the raise hand button at the bottom of your of the screen here. Oh, excellent. Oh, good. A few of you are. Okay. So, Amanda, what committee are you working with right now?
Do you have your mute button on?
Oh, excellent. You're ending your term on Teen Read Week. Thank you. Excellent. And I think Colleen, yep, Colleen's has done some committee work as well. And Kate, are you on the, oh, I'm sorry. Kate McNair, are you on the board right now? Are you?
Yes, I am. I'm finishing up. This will be 2 years out of my 3-year term, and I'll also be chairing our standing committee on advocacy for the board.
Excellent. Thank you. Amy reports that she's stepping off the Teen Read Week committee with Amanda. So you guys know each other from work, and that's wonderful. Thank you. So before I go into just kind of an overview of some of the positions that are available for leadership for YALSA, do any of you have any questions that you want to start the conversation with? I would like to really make sure that today you have the opportunity to ask your questions and learn from each other without a whole presentation first. Well, I'll talk a little bit about some of the positions that are available, but don't hesitate to jump in if you have any questions that come up. You can use the raise hand button, which is in the participants window. I may have forgotten to say that. If you click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. It'll bring up a box, and within that, there's a raise hand button that you can click on to ask a question or to jump in. But some of the positions that are available, I'm going to attempt to share my screen so that you can see the website that I'm referring to. Let's see if that works. Hold on. Okay. I hope you can all see this. The board members. So a lot of what the Governance Nominating Committee is charged with doing is putting together the roster for YALSA Leadership every year. And so this year we're working on finalizing our roster for the given positions that are up for election. And we have one president-elect, who in turn will be president and then past president. So it's a 3-year commitment. Board members, we have 3 positions open for board members right now. And we also are looking for someone to serve as a YALSA representative to ALA Council. And Vicki spoke briefly in her introduction about working with ALA Council. So that's something else. And these positions, Beth can correct me if I'm wrong, but every year there are some positions that sort of stay on the roster. The board members at large, board director members at large, and the president are, I think, ones that are every year, but we alternate with fiscal officer, counsel, and is it secretary that we alternate, Vicki? Beth?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So right now those positions are not open at the moment. They're being filled, but next year perhaps those will be on the roster. So the ones I like to start talking with people about are the responsibilities for board members. You can read them, all the responsibilities, on the website, so I won't go through all of them, but there are some really, really great opportunities to serve on the YALSA Board of Directors. Some of the most often asked questions, I'll just go ahead and answer. Usually it's a 3-year term. You do have to stand for an election. That means that you may or may not be running against someone else for a seat, and the YALSA membership votes on those folks that serve on the board. And attendance at both annual and midwinter is something you do need to commit to before running. So those are like always the 3 big questions about board. But they do a lot of meetings in person at both conferences, but also virtually. There's a lot of meetings that happen through, do you use Zoom now, Beth, for the online meetings?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So they're meeting via the software we're currently using right now, which is Zoom. They'll do sometimes some phone meetings. Sometimes there's a lot of work on electronically through email or through ALA Connect that is done. So board responsibilities aren't just for conference. It's definitely year-round work and constant communication with folks on the board, that with members that are serving on committees, and other folks, perhaps partners and YALSA staff that is involved with that. It's a lot of reading of reports. Sometimes it can be writing of reports, and it's all towards working towards fulfilling YALSA's mission and goals. So I'll pause. Are there any questions right now? Sorry, I have so many screens right now. Let me see. Okay. Check the hands.
Sarah, can you talk a minute about the board fellow position? Because that's kind of a separate position that you don't the slate, but we still offer it every year.
Okay. Actually, Abby Phillips just joined us on the phone. Abby, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Would you like to talk a little bit about the board fellow position?
Sure. I served as a board a year ago, and at the time I was a doctoral student at Florida State at their School of Information. Mm-hmm. And it was a really great opportunity. Sorry, I got distracted by the group chat. It was a great opportunity for me to learn more about the board and leadership possibilities. And I just got to participate in a lot of things, including the strategic plan that I never would have had the opportunity to do otherwise.
And Abby, just to clarify, the board fellow position isn't an elected position. It's one that call for nominees will go out, and I believe it's there's a committee that selects the board fellow. Am I right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not an elected position, but it's a one-year fellowship that I applied for.
Yep. Okay. So that's a little bit different. That is still a position on the board, but it's slightly different than running for a seat on the board of directors. And there was a question about providing the better sense of numbers of hours required per month outside of in-person meetings. For the board, for me, outside of in-person meetings, and I will also exclude the month right before annual and the month right before midwinter, the average hours a month I spent on board work was probably between 5 and 8 hours, depending on what was going on. The months before the meetings, though, the in-person meetings, it was considerably more time because of the work, the prep work that you as a board member are responsible for doing before you get to the in-person meetings. I'm not sure I could average out how much time. I'd say, I don't know. I'd say I cleared maybe 4 days beforehand on my schedule to have some time to read through all the board reports, to ensure that I processed what I was reading, but also had time to comment on them and write down some questions that I wanted to ask during our discussion at the board. Reading them on the fly didn't work for me. Attempting to, just read the summaries, that's definitely not something I would recommend. So it is, some time is needed for that work as well. So that's for the board. In terms of an executive role like president, I'm thinking it's a lot more work than that. In terms of council work, Vicki, do you want to jump in with how much prep time for council it is?
For council, what you really need to be able to do is to keep up with the listserv and the comments there, and to read everything that's posted. And there are a lot of reports and things that are posted ahead of time. And then, for example, the documents for council for this upcoming conference just went up online. They went up on Connect and the council part of that. And also, they're also, I think, available for anybody to look at. And so you have to take some time to read through that, because at council, there's a lot of discussion and there's voting, and you have to have your ducks in a row. And then you also need to double back to the YALSA board, like in real time. Things will happen and you'll need the board to discuss something or to make a decision on something or a recommendation or whatever. And so that takes a little bit of time, but it's not, you spend a lot of time in meetings. You spend a lot of time in the council meetings at conference and also the board meetings, the YALSA board meetings. But if you don't have time to read all that stuff, then you really are kind of untethered in terms of being able to understand what's going on. And I would also say that doing all of the YALSA board work gives you a real understanding of the association, really gives you insight into what people are doing, because everybody's doing something different. Everybody's a board member, and everybody's goals are the same, but you're doing something different for the organization. And the other piece that I would add is I really enjoyed liaising with the committee. I thought that was just really enlightening. And sometimes, when you're a chair, sometimes you just need somebody to talk with, and your position on the board gives them a link, somebody they can contact. Many of you have been in that position before where you were chairs of committees or worked on committees. And to me, that was a really fulfilling kind of a thing to be able to do, because once you worked on these committees for years and years and years, you do develop kind of an understanding and a depth of I don't know what, you just a depth of knowledge. And it's wonderful to be able to share and to be there for other YALSA members when they need you.
Sarah, this is Kate.
Yeah.
Can I add something too about
Absolutely.
the time commitment? I would also say, like, when you start as a new board member, it's going to take a lot more time. Like, I know I spent a lot of time my first year. We were also doing strategic planning in that time with Abby. And so I spent a lot of time doing the strategic planning work, but there was also, like, it takes you a little bit longer to do all of the work of a board member.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to, like, read professional development documents. Like, I really did not, I'm still not that great of, like, a money person, but part of the board's responsibility is to make sure that YALSA is financially healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, like, I was reading articles and watching webinars on how to read, like, financial documents and what are key indicators to look out for. I was paying attention to board source material that's professional development for board members. So learning a lot of those skills too. So you should definitely plan, like, not only does it kind of like ebb and flow as we get closer to conferences, but your first year, you're like building a lot of skills, or at least I was. So especially if you don't already have board experience, there's a lot of investment in your own development that has to happen too.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, Kate brings up a really good point about that. Depending on the experiences you bring to the board, should you choose to run and get a seat on it, depending on what your experiences with your professional life are, there could be a pretty big learning curve, especially with things like budgets, like the fiscal responsibilities that are part of the work, just managing your time to ensure that you have time to work on all of this and to know who to reach out to for help. Another big learning experience for me was really looking at YALSA from as a part of ALA whole. So when I was a member, when I worked on committees, it was kind of like, okay, here's my YALSA committee, and this is the work that I'm doing, and I know who my board liaison is, and I know who YALSA president is, and I knew, Beth and Letitia in the office, and I knew who, like, ALA's president was, but outside of that, there's a whole big organizational structure that I didn't quite understand or even know I needed to understand. And when I joined the board, I learned, and I had a much better understanding of this organization that I have been a part of for 15 plus years, and I feel so much better about it. And now I feel like I'm an active member. I understand what divisions, what groups do what. I have a better understanding of, I'll be honest, I still am not 100% on every division and every group of ALA, but I do have a better understanding of what it is to be a member of ALA and what ALA truly does and offers to the membership at large. And that was something that I guess I didn't really know I was missing. So I was really pleased to have that opportunity. Excuse me. And that came from being a board member within YALSA. We, have the amazing opportunity to hear from ALA president, candidates for president at various programs. We have opportunities to hear from representatives from the fiscal division and from the, I forgot what it stands for. Beth, can you help me? What does BARC stand for, B-A-R-C?
That's an ALA committee, and they're the budget analysis and review committee. Thank you.
Yes, them. So who I didn't even know existed, really honest and true, before serving on YALSA. So that was all a really, really great opportunity for me to learn more about. But it's also about what you learn that you can bring back to your personal life, your professional life at home. There's a lot of skills I learned being a board member that I really didn't have the opportunity to explore in my professional career up until now. And it's really helped me prepare and be better and more competent and confident in my professional life. So that was also something I really owe to YALSA and the work that I had the opportunity to do with the board. Amy, thank you for joining us. I understand. I hope you get a chance to watch the recording of this later, which will be available. But I'll pause and ask if there's any other questions or comments.
I'll add one more thing, Sarah, too. If anyone like nervous about joining the board without much board experience too. I think YALSA's done a really good job as a person who joined the board without experience. YALSA provides a lot of great resources. Like we all have memberships to BoardSource so that I can attend webinars and read articles. And then I was also assigned a board mentor as a freshman board member. And so that was someone who had been on the board for longer, someone who I could ask questions of. Beth would send out kind of prompts to us with ideas about what to ask about. You know, ask your mentor how they prepare for conference. Ask your mentor what kind of questions they're asking themselves when they're writing a board document. And so that was a really great resource too. If you're a little nervous that you don't know if you have all the right skills, there are ways to develop yourself. And also there's resources out there, like BoardSource has documents that are open to the public. And the YALSA handbook is a good place to go and look through what are the board responsibilities. And so if you're curious about kind of developing yourself before applying to run for election for the board, that's a good opportunity to take advantage of.
Oh, and this is Abby. I was going to piggyback on what Sarah said a minute ago. I'm actually not even a practicing librarian at the moment, but a lot of the stuff that I learned as a board fellow can transition into like academic life and working and researching libraries and librarians. So it was just a whole other way of thinking. It opened my eyes a lot.
I'd just like to add too, this is Vicki, that you know, the YALSA board is always a really nice group of people. So if you need help or you think you need support, there are friends there. And you'll make friends on the board that you will have for the rest of your life. Not only just professional friends, but friends. And so I would like to add that is a real plus. And I thought that was really an enjoyable part of it. It was important. It was important to me. And it still is. I knew Sarah when we were on board together. And we're still friends. So I just think that it's, in terms of growing in your professional life and also in your personal life, it's great. It's just a great opportunity. But it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah. So Colleen asks if we can talk a little bit more about the election process and timing. Of when we start thinking about being on the board and when we ask people to start taking action in the election, and I'm happy to do so. So thinking about the election process, the elections usually happen in, I think it's March and April. The link is sent out to the entire membership, and YALSA's elections is part of the bigger ALA ballot that I hope you've all seen. I hope you've all voted in the past on. It's sent out via email, and you have the opportunity to elect. The people that you saw on that ballot were selected almost 8 months prior. So right now, the Governance Nominating Committee is working on putting together a roster of candidates to stand for election next March. That would be March 2018. And we will finalize our slate of candidates in August and submit that to the YALSA office. So right now, we're sort of at the final stages of getting all the information we need for our slate. We've spent the spring talking, and early winter of, early year, if you will, of 2017, talking to folks about running, about what it means. Are they interested, sort of pinpointing some different opportunities that are available, and that kind of thing. So that work is pretty much done for 2018. And I think if you run on the 2018 ballot, I believe it's at annual 2018 that you join the board. Did I get that wrong, Beth?
So if you stand for election in March. of 2018, like Sarah said, your work starts at the end of June, just like 2 months later. Yep.
Thank you. Yep, that's right. So at the end of June, you would join that position. That position is when you would take that on, and then it would be either for your 3-year term, and yes, most board terms are for 3 years, that are there. So if you are attending this webinar today and you're interested in learning more or possibly standing for a position, it would be the next governance nominating committee that you would want to talk to, which would take which would start their work next January, right before midwinter, I think is when we start our position. So that's something to keep in mind. And certainly we can connect you with that chair, or we can, put some information together for you on that. And Stephanie asked, does the nominating board pick the positions based on applications? No, the nominating board has the positions. They are dictated by the term set. YALSA office tells us what positions are open and what they need candidates for, and then we go forth and talk with folks about the positions that are available that year. Does that make sense?
But you do choose members, right?
We choose what?
You choose the members. So the members turn in their nomination form, and you vet them all and pick who you think is. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yes. So the nomination, yes, you can self-nominate, or someone else can nominate you, and you can nominate someone else on an online form that's open to everybody. And those forms come to the governance nominating committee. We vet them, we go through, we reach out to individuals one-on-one, talk to them about a position they may be interested in, and make sure we go over everything with them, ask them to think about it, because we know this is a real commitment of professional and personal time. We circle back, we talk about it. Sometimes people say, I was really interested and I still am, but I need to wait a year. That's okay. We'll hang on to your name. We'll pass it on to our next committee and touch base again. So there's always that opportunity to learn more. And we know things can change. We know it is a kind of a extended time, if you will. So things can change between you filling out the form and us coming to finalize our slate. We don't ever want anyone to be uncomfortable with that time, but we know things can change. So if you are unable to fulfill that nomination, that's okay, and we can work you through that, certainly. I'm just checking if I missed any. I don't want to miss any questions. If there are any, though, and you have a mic, please jump in. Oh, the election. What can you expect from the election? I knew there was something else. So the election, what happens when YALSA announces the candidate for the positions that will be available on that online ballot is you'll be asked to write usually a sort of a statement of candidacy for yourself. You may be interviewed or asked to be interviewed by someone with the YALSA blog. So that may go. At one point when I ran, actually, I did it was an online sort of a podcast interview actually with someone. So that was another opportunity for me. And then you'll be asked to participate in an in-person program, if you will. In the past, it's been called a coffee with the candidates, and that usually happens at midwinter. And that's an opportunity for you as a candidate to meet with YALSA members and talk a little bit about your experiences about YALSA, and also have the opportunity to answer any questions that the members may have. That might change in format slightly or drastically, we're not sure yet. For this midwinter, that is actually something that this governance nominating committee has been tasked with once we finish our slate and submit that, is putting together an opportunity for members to get to know candidates. So we're pretty excited about that as well. I'm trying to think as far as the election goes. Vicki or anyone else on the phone that has run, am I missing anything?
You pretty much,
I think I am.
You pretty much need to, have a resume of your experience in ALA and any division work. YALSA work is particularly useful to put up there, but I've seen sometimes when people put things up and they're not readable or they're not easy to understand, you need to work on that. That's one thing that I think is important, is making sure that when somebody's going to vote, they can look at your resume or whatever up there, and they can actually pretty much figure out, what you did and what your experience is. And then the statement of professional interest or whatever is important. I always read those. I always want to know what people are interested in, what they think is important. And so that would be one thing that I think you'd need to massage a little bit. It doesn't take a huge amount of time, and there are lots of people, like, you can run it past people who've done this before. But that would be one suggestion that I would have.
Thanks.
Nobody really campaigns.
Yeah.
So go out there and campaign. And I don't really, the only people I know who campaign are people who are running for ALA president, but all the other offices, pretty much you put your stuff out there, but then you need to take advantage of all the opportunities. If there's an opportunity to do a podcast for YALSA, then you need to take advantage of that. And if there's any kind of a meet and greet for candidates at conference at midwinter, then you make sure that you do that, because that's how people will get to know you, and that's what gets your name out there.
Yeah. I also want to add that there's another cool element to serving in a YALSA leadership position, and that's the other side of it, which is you as a YALSA leader within your community. So when you're on the board, or when you're fulfilling a higher level of engagement opportunity like board work, you also have, I think, a responsibility to act as a YALSA representative to your state or community, region, however, wherever you work. And that might mean offering to do a program about something that YALSA is working on at your annual conference, your state conference or your regional conferences there, to talk to people about different things, the YALSA initiatives, to be involved with conversations that are happening, to promote YALSA's resources that are available, grant opportunities that are there. And that's another great thing, is that it sort of allows you to become a contact within your area, sort of a leader for YALSA contacts within your area. And that's a very exciting thing for a lot of people to take part in as well. It becomes more of a giving back opportunity, if you will, for all the help you've received from YALSA over the years. This is the opportunity for you to help and pay it forward and share it with some folks that might not be aware of the things that YALSA has, or the opportunities or the help and support that are there for the grant opportunities, for sure, to talk about those things as well. I learned a lot from acting in this role, and a lot of what I did was actually just hosting a YALSA table, like an exhibit table, at a couple of conferences when I was on the board, and that was I can't even tell you how much fun that was. That was just so much fun to have that opportunity. So that's another exciting thing that comes with this work. Any other? Okay. So when thinking about running for a position with YALSA and getting involved with leadership, it is really important that you think about your professional responsibilities I call it at home, and also personal. It's incredibly helpful to have support from your place of employment. It's incredibly helpful to have support of your family and friends while doing this, because it is a commitment of time. It is a commitment of your attention, and so having that set up in advance, or at least talking through what it means, especially with work, what it means to be involved, will help your library, or where you're working, sort of prepare for this commitment as well. So definitely including folks in that discussion time frame is also, I think, an important piece of it.
This is Beth, Sarah.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little about the positions on the board that are appointed and not elected.
Sure.
So Sarah and Vicki and Kate and Abby have been talking about elected positions on the board, which are 3-year positions. But if you're not sure if board service is something that you have that kind of time commitment for, since it's a 3-year position, there are 3 shorter positions on the board. The one is the one we already mentioned called the board fellow position. And then the other two are chair positions. So the chair of the Financial Advancement Committee and the chair of the Organization and Bylaws Committee both serve on the board because of their role on these committees. And that's a one-year term. So if 3 years are too much for you to commit to, and you might want to consider this other path to board service, especially if either of those topics interest you, the financial advancement or the fundraising kind of piece, and then the organization and bylaws, kind of that process piece. So those are some alternatives to think about.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you for that. Yes. I brought up on the screen. I brought up on the screen a list of kind of the governance, basically the governance main page, and on here you can find further information under Get Involved with Governance. You'll see the organization and bylaws and the strategic planning committee and those things on there as well. And like Beth said, a lot of those are like one-year terms. So, and I think we've had a lot of board members start with those positions, the 1 year, and then go to run for a 3 year, or have been asked to help fill in if someone has had to leave the board during their term, and we need someone to fulfill a remaining term. A lot of those folks have been able to step in. So it is a really good opportunity to kind of start board work if you're interested.
And those chair appointments are made each year, usually in May.
In May?
So
yeah.
When the president-elect puts out a call for spring strategic committee appointments, that's when to put your name in if you're interested in either of those chair spots.
Are there any other questions or comments from our board and past board members on the phone? No?
I mean, I'll just add a little bit.
Yeah.
That, so this is Kate McNair. I've really enjoyed being on the board, and it's given me not just a whole new perspective on YALSA, but on my home library. Especially, I'm really excited to be moving onto our advocacy committee this year. So thinking of legislation that affects library, both at the national and the local level. So I've really enjoyed. I thought I knew a lot. I had chaired like, I don't know, 6 different committees. I'd been like, for 3 years prior to being on the board, I had like always hit my maximum of 3 committees that I could volunteer on with YALSA. Like I was one of those super involved members, and I was like, I know everything there is to know about YALSA. And oh my gosh, I have learned so much in 2 years. Like it is amazing how much YALSA does. And it's really rewarding to be able to give back to the association. And so I think, it's a challenging role. You're going to learn a lot. And so the more that you have that passion and that drive to give back to the association, the better, because, there may be times that take a lot of your time or might be a little bit trying, and you can always fall back on that passion for the association.
And like, as you can see from a lot of us that have been talking today, board work isn't the end of your work with YALSA. There's so many more opportunities, right? After, and I think YALSA is stronger for those of us that have served on the board and have that experience that Kate was talking about, and are able to bring that to the next round of things that we do. So like for me, it's been governance nominating. Last year I was on the committee. This year I was asked to chair it. So that's been, a really exciting thing for me. And it's just helped me learning what I did about YALSA in the organization has helped me in my professional career working on different committees and boards here, being able to apply what I learned here. And that's an opportunity that I don't think I would have had I not done this up, worked with YALSA. So there's a lot to be had. There's a lot that it's sort of like the next stepping stone for a lot of people. And that's really exciting too, that we can have, we can engage YALSA members in lots of different roles. So
that's a good point, Sarah. This is Beth.
Yeah.
And you know, there's ALA Council that Vicki's talked a little bit about. We love to have YALSA members on ALA Council.
Yeah.
And ALA Executive Board members come from ALA Council. So we also would love to see more YALSA members on the ALA Executive Board. YALSA members also serve on the ALA Nominating Committee that puts names for counselors and ALA President-elect and Treasurer on the ALA slate. So those are all things to think about too. Right now, one of our YALSA members, Jack Martin, is on the ALA Nominating Committee, and he is working with that committee to identify people for council and people for ALA President-elect. So if those opportunities interest you as well, whether now or down the line, let us know, because as Sarah pointed out, having YALSA members move on to these other things in the organization just helps strengthen YALSA and helps raise awareness among the rest of the library community about teen services.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This is Vicki, and I served on that last year for on the ALA Nominating Committee, and actually it was really useful to have a youth perspective on that. A lot of times, a lot of those committees for ALA are heavily public library and adult services in public libraries, and also ACRL has a huge presence. So even if you don't do this, even if you don't go through the YALSA board, I would, suggest that you keep your options open on ALA committees as well.
And right now, this is Abby Phillips. I'm serving on the ALA Committee of Professional Ethics and the Conference Committee, and as the YALSA representative. And that's been a great opportunity to learn more about YALSA ALA overall.
So I'd like to ask participants, are there any topics that you had expected to hear about today or want to hear about that we haven't really touched on yet?
Can you hear me? This is Janice.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, hi.
How are you? I didn't know that it was all going to be about board positions. I'm interested in getting involved with YALSA. I'm concerned. I serve on the Connecticut Association of School Librarians and several other boards, so I feel like I'm beginning to spread myself a little thin. I'm a school librarian full-time at a high school, and then I'm also a public librarian part-time. So for me, I think a huge stumbling block would be the commitment to get to the conferences. Asking for that much time off for midwinter probably would not fly in my school. So I don't want to take you down a path that maybe you didn't mean this meeting to go in, but for those of you who are involved in YALSA, if you could maybe discuss some of the other possible volunteer options that maybe aren't board related or wouldn't necessitate commitment to those two conferences, that might be helpful.
Sure, there are, aside from the board and the positions we were just talking about, there are a lot of committee opportunities to get involved with YALSA that do not require you to do the traveling to the midwinter and annual unless you're able. I'm going to look for a page on the website with that information. Beth, are there any committees off the top of your head you know of that are virtual, strictly virtual, that would be?
Yeah, so we're in the process of moving away from longer-term committees that are 1- and 2-year commitments, and also face-to-face committees where you have to come to conference to be on the committee. So we're sort of in transition right now, and we used to, so we have a new sort of calendar of volunteer opportunities. And right now, through July 1st, we're seeking folks to serve on our member award juries. That's a virtual option, and it's just a 3-month appointment. So you can, if you're interested in that, you can fill out the volunteer form now through July 1st, and the work that you would do would actually happen November, December, January. And again, it's each member a scholarship or award or fellowship or travel stipend, has its own award jury, and their specific purpose is just to vet the applications that come in and choose the winners. So that opportunity is open right now. I'm going to post the link to information about it in the chat box. And there are a couple of short-term task forces that we're also at the same time collecting volunteer forms for. Those are folks who want to help market virtually in advance of the 2018 ALA annual conference. So it's, you know, writing blog posts and sending out email serves and talking things up through your state networks about YALSA activities going on at ALA's 2018 conference. We're looking for a 6-month Teen Tech Week committee to help promote Teen Tech Week. So those things are all, you can learn about them from that link that I put in the chat box. Then after that, those things are finished appointment in September, then we'll appoint to book award committees. So that volunteer form will open up mid to late July and be open through October 1st. And those committees, some of them are virtual, some of them are face-to-face. They all start work February 1st and have a 12-month appointment. So that's something to keep an eye out for. We put this information in the weekly e-news that we hope you're getting and reading. If not, let us know. We can follow up after the chat. And then also on the YALSA blog. So that's a good way to keep up with what's going on. And then the third round of volunteer appointments happens. We open up the form January 1, and it's for, we call them strategic committees, like say Teen Read Week, organization bylaws that we talked about, financial advancement, all of those kinds of things. And they'll start, the appointments, form opens January 1, appointments happen March, April, work starts July 1. So those are 3 different separate rounds of committee appointments that we're doing. And then also there's just other stuff like you can blog for YALSA, the YALSA blog or the hub. You could present a webinar for us. You can, Sarah talked about this, of like staffing a booth at a state conference for us. So there are lots of other opportunities that I can chat with you about now if you have questions, or later offline, whatever works for you.
Sorry, everyone, I muted myself. I'm glad that was helpful, Janice. Anyone else?
And Janice, okay. I know one of your issues is the amount of time off to come to conference, but if another issue is finances, if you've never been to an ALA conference before, we have a travel stipend you can apply for first timers. If you start at the YALSA homepage and click on awards and grants, you can get to it from there. The application's due December 1st. We also do the same for our YA Services Symposium, but timing is bad for that because we just closed the application 2 weeks ago. But we do that every year as well. The application's open until June 1st, and then the symposium is in November.
Great, thank you very much. That's great.
Sure, you're welcome.
Colleen asks a question, and I think we can touch upon it. We probably can't. We could definitely touch upon it. We could be here all day talking about all the projects. But she asks, what kind of projects do board members work on? Obviously, like the organization plan and what's in store. Would Kate mind talking a little bit about that? My experience and what I worked in, and I can tell you, but it's 2 years old, so I don't know. Kate, are you still with us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool.
So, I mean, there's kind of like regular board work that happens. That's a lot of just the governance piece. So we're getting management reports from Beth about what's going on in the organization, the association, looking at the finances of the association, reading through our chair reports to make sure that our committees are all on track and doing our work. But a lot of what the board does is that kind of, as Sarah mentioned, like that 3,000-foot view, that governance work and the organizational plan. And so Sarah's brought up our implementation plan draft, which is also part of our board documents that you can read. It's on the YALSA website under governance, and then the board meetings and minutes. So you can see that we'll be discussing this in at annual in Chicago. And so a lot of it is working on these outcomes and strategies. So if you're curious what we're going to be doing over the next year, these are the projects that we will be working on. So, you know, some of that is aligning our committee work, as Beth talked about, to have more short-term committees. We're talking about how can we make sure that the work that we're doing now is aligned with the new organizational plan and our goals in areas such as funder and partner development, advocacy, and leading the transformation of teen services, which is really following up on what was brought out through the futures report. So that's a lot of the work that we do. Some of it is kind of regular maintenance work, but we are tasked with helping to see the vision of the association as we move forward and take those pieces, those steps piece by piece to work towards that vision, and then also evaluate the changes that we have put forward and see if they're working or not. So there's a lot of things, like almost every board document that you're going to read will have probably a discussion. So we might talk about historical practice of how we run a certain committee. We might talk about why there is a roadblock in a certain area of that process, proposed solutions or questions to discuss, and then a suggested fix and an evaluation step too. So who will do the work, how long will we work on it, how will we evaluate it when we get to an end of a road and decide what to do next. And we also, yes, and Sarah posts that we do post for every board document that we make, we try and post something to the YALSA blog that's, you know, maybe a little bit more kind of generally accessible. The board documents that we write can be kind of lengthy sometimes, especially when they involve a lot of reports. And so we try to kind of sum it up in easier to read format on the blog and kind of give you reasons why this is important, why we're thinking about it. And if you're coming to a conference too, come on in and sit down in a board meeting. They're all open except for the executive session, and so you can listen, you can see what our agenda is, you can come and sit in and hear how we discuss and what we discuss. You can read all the board documents you want and find out what we're working on now too. I'm reading them all, so you can join me.
That's how I got into YALSA. I went to one board meeting, I think at my first annual, and then it just kind of went on from there. I don't think I read all the board documents for that meeting, but I did learn a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea. If you have the opportunity, if you are interested in YALSA board work and you have the opportunity to attend one of the conferences, it's definitely a good idea to attend one of the board meetings, just to sit and observe and see how the board structure works, what discussions they have. Like Kate and Abby said, the documents are open to the public. You can read them and follow along with the discussion at the meetings. It really, not only does reading the board documents give you that opportunity to know what YALSA is talking about, but it does show you the kind of structure that you may be asked to do if you do some work on the board. When someone says something about writing a board document, this is what they're talking about, this is what it looks like, and this is how it gets to the meeting, and this is how it's discussed and kind of moved through the process. So if you have that opportunity, it's really cool to come and see.
I'll add one last thing too. Something for me as a person who had chaired several committees, like the biggest difference to me, like I thought like, okay, I'm a YALSA leader, I've chaired a lot of committees, but the biggest difference I think between being a chair of a committee and being on the board is that you're not necessarily the boots on the ground. Like the board doesn't say like, we need a toolkit on X, Y, or Z, and then goes and makes the toolkit. You know, we need to look at the landscape and say like, okay, our members need a toolkit on this, so we're going to appoint a committee that will work on this toolkit. And I think sometimes that can be a challenge for people who've been, or at least it's a challenge for me as a person who is like super involved in YALSA, and I'm kind of like the boots on the ground teen services person in my library. And so like pulling out of that and thinking like, I don't have to do everything. I need to make sure that we are leading people to do the thing. And so that, I think that can be a challenge if you've had a lot of chair experience, but it's also really rewarding once you practice that skill and step back a little bit, and you can take a broader view of things.
So we're getting kind of towards the end of our session, and we'll still have opportunity for questions, but I do want to just say that the YALSA board, more than I think any other division of ALA, really prides itself on the diversity of the board members who makes up the board. And I think regardless of the position that you're in now, whether you're working directly with teens, whether you're kind of supervising a whole bunch of people that work with teens, whether you're from a for-profit or you're a student like Abby, I think the YALSA board has a place for you, and we need that kind of experience from the different areas to make, sorry, I started reading a comment, to make up the board. Like Kate said, the diversity makes us so much better as a board. It really is true. It really does. I mean, I myself don't work with teens directly right now. I don't work with the public right now. I work for a state library system, and I supervise a team of librarians. But YALSA to me is still as important as ever because of the work that the experience and the things that I gained from being a YALSA member, but now having that opportunity to give back and expand my leadership skills through YALSA has just been, it's been career changing for me. And I think a lot of other people feel that way as well. So also do keep that in mind as well, please. Any other final questions, thoughts, or comments from anyone? No? Oh. When the board meetings are at annual. Okay.
You can get that information from that link, the last link I shared. Okay. Where the agenda and documents, that should tell you the time. But I can read them to you too. So the board meets 3 times at annual. The biggest meeting, the longest meeting is Saturday from 1 to 5:30. And then they have a Sunday meeting from 4:30 to 5:30 and a Monday meeting from 1 to 2:30. All meetings are in the same room. It's in the convention center, room W176C. And if you can make it to the start of meetings, the first 10 minutes are this open information forum where anybody can ask a question or share an idea or ask for clarification about something. So that's a good time to come, especially if you have a burning question or a brilliant idea or just want to know more.
And a lot of us will also be at annual. If you'd like to set up a little bit of a follow-up, a more personal one-on-one, I will be there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll type my email address here in the box. And I'd be happy to meet with you at annual. If you aren't going, but you still would like some follow-up, don't hesitate to email me. We can set up a phone call. I would be happy to talk with any of you further. If you have any questions you'd prefer to ask offline, absolutely. Don't hesitate to reach out, please. Excellent. Well, I'll take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of the Governance Nominating Committee, and special thanks to Kate and Beth for joining us too. Really appreciate everyone's time today. I hope we were helpful. Oh, good. Glad to see some of the comments. This was really helpful. We're really glad. This is, I think, the first time we've sort of done this kind of thing online, so I'm glad it went well. Beth has a recording of this. I'm sure she'll make it available to you for referral and also to folks who weren't able to attend today. But thank you, and I hope to see you all soon.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thanks. See you guys in Chicago.
Yay!